Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to PHP tutorials. Today is our lecture number 4 and in today's lecture I am going to demonstrate these two concepts that are written on the screen, that is the scope of the variable, and I will also discuss what are constants in PHP. Okay, so these are the things that are available in all the programming languages, but in today's domain, because we are in PHP, so with respect to PHP I am going to demonstrate these two concepts. In the previous lecture I have started the variables and I have demonstrated what are variables and how to create a variable and how to use that variables, how to assign the value. So these are the previous things that I am going to remind you, and then in today's lecture we will see these two topics. So let's start and have a look what we have today. Alright, the first thing that we are going to discuss is constant. What is a constant? If we talk about constant, then a constant is a thing that remains unchanged or that remains static throughout the life cycle of the page. Okay, so if you have anything that you wish to put in a constant manner or in a static manner throughout the life cycle of the page, then you can create a constant. It can also be said that if you have a long data or a long name, let's say address or a huge name with so many characters, and you have to use that particular name or address throughout the application, then you can create a constant for that. So how can you create a constant in PHP? It's very simple. You have to use this define method. So when you open the define method, it is asking you that what is the name of the constant. Usually constants are defined with capital letters. Okay, so let's say if you are giving here a name, okay, this is the name of my constant. It is not necessary that you can give the name in capital letters. It's your choice. I'm just saying that it's a tradition, let's say, or it's a way in which the constants are created. That means the uppercase, and then the value in which the value that you have to store inside this constant. Let's say if I store here Ali Raza, then the whole name. So I wanted to use this name again and again inside my application, and I don't want to write it again and again. So what I can do, I can define it a constant, and it can be used in all or the application. Okay, without change. So it's a static thing and you don't need to reassign the values again and again, and then close it and then semicolon. So you have defined a constant. It's very simple. And now if you write here echo and if you write here name, then the name will be displayed. Okay, alright, so write here semicolon so that this error is removed. Now it's fine. Now save this and run it on Chrome. Okay, so if you see, my XAMPP server is running and my page is my Dreamweaver is already configured with the server. So look, instead of that my name is appearing because I have echoed what? I have echoed this thing and the name was displayed. But it is case sensitive, guys. If you write here echo and if you write here name, then save it and then go to your browser and then refresh it. So look, it gives you a warning that it is an undefined constant. You have to define that constant, but still if you wanted to provide the case insensitivity inside your constant, then you can specify a boolean value by applying comma, and then look, it is asking you either it is case sensitive or not. If you want it to case insensitive, write here true, simple. So what will happen now when you display this name, it will display this value, this Ali Raza. I hope it is clear to everyone. So by making it true, by default it is case sensitive. If you make it true, it will become case insensitive also, and now it will also run. So let us save it and then go to the browser and then refresh it. So see, my data is appearing based on that echo. Okay, now let's talk about the scope of the variables. In PHP, the scope of the variable, let me discuss it first. The scope of a variable. What is a scope basically? Scope is the range of a particular thing. Let's say if I am a citizen of Pakistan, so my scope, my domain, my range is within the Pakistan. I do not need anything to move throughout the Pakistan. I hope it is clear to everyone, right? So that's what scope is. So when we are creating variables, the variables should also hold a scope. So at which place you are creating a variable, that determines the scope of the variable. There are three scopes basically, that is the local scope, and then you have the global scope, and then you have the static scope. Okay, so now let me discuss local, global, and the static scope. In PHP, when you are creating a function, or when you create a function, and inside that function when you create a variable, that variable will resides inside that function, and the lifetime of that variable will also in between that parenthesis of or the body of the function. That means the variable that you have created inside a function will remain in the function, and it will not be accessed outside that function. I hope it is clear to everyone. That means the life of the variable will become available inside that function, otherwise it is not available. I hope it is clear to everyone. Let me show you with an example. So for example, I am creating a function inside PHP. When we are creating a function, it's very similar to JavaScript here in also in PHP. So let us create a function with the name sum, and the same is the syntax for creating a function inside PHP. Okay, then come inside and create a variable. Let's say $num1 is equals to 5, let's say, and then $num2 is equals to 10, and then $result is equals to $num1 plus $num2. Okay, and then semicolon, and then you have to apply echo to display the result. Okay, so right here $res. Okay, that's it. So guys, what will happen? A variable is created here inside the domain or inside the body of the function, so its lifetime remains within this function. This variable will not be called outside this function. The value of the variable detained itself from the memory or flush itself from the memory if you call it from outside from the function. I hope it is clear to everyone. Okay, so let us first run this, and how to use this code. Just call this function, because when you create a function it should be called. Okay, so I have called this function, and now let us check. So the result is 15. It's adding basically. And now what you can do, you can if you write here echo, and then if you write here $num1 and then save it, and then go to your page again and then refresh it, look, we're saying undefined variable. It is not outside the scope of that particular function. So this is the local scope, and then the next scope of the variable is the global scope. Okay guys, now let's do the global scope for the variable that I have created here. To make a variable global, what you have to do, you have to first declare the variable outside the domain of the function. Let's say you have to create this variable here, and you have to assign some value here. Okay, and then after that you have to come in that function and then write here global keyword, and then remove this value. So indirectly you have done or created or assigned a scope to your num1 variable, that it is a global variable. Okay, and then the things remain the same, the addition will happen, and then after executing this function, let me echo the value, that is num1. Okay, and save, and now let's start. So if you notice here, the sum is also appearing, and the global scope, the domain of that variable is existing right after the function execution. Okay, the value is not disappeared or the value is not vanished, because we have applied this global keyword before the name of the variable. And now let me discuss the third scope, that is the static scope. The static scope and the local scope are both similar in nature, but there is only one difference. The only difference is that the value of a static variable retains even after the function terminates. I repeat, the value of a static variable retains itself even after the function terminates, and if we see at the local scope, the value of the variable is not pertained even after the function terminates. I hope it is clear to everyone. So that's the basic difference between the static variable and a local variable. To use that, only you have to change the static keyword and replace that global with the static keyword. That's it. So the effect is the same, the impact is the same, there is no such huge difference. So let me show you. Look, the difference is a very little difference. The value is 10 first, and then the value is 5. Now if you examine this code, what is happening? The value of num1 is 5 and it is retained even after the function terminates. Okay, and the value num1 at this point, it is not static. At this point it is not static, and when you apply static, and it has no value, that's why it is showing me 10. It has not added the sum. Okay, so guys, why the number is not added? Because here you have to assign any number so that it can it added inside the num2. Okay, and here you don't need this particular thing. Okay, so when you run this program, 16 will be displayed. Let me show you. Look, 16, and then the value of the function is retained even after the function terminates. This is what static scope is. I hope it is clear to everyone. So that's all for today. Hope you have understood the scopes of the variable with respect to static, global and local, and the constant. How can we create a constant? So if you do not understand anything, please do write me. Thank you so much. Take care. Allah Hafiz.